peace. How is everybody enjoying? Oh my goodness, I probably should have brought my lights, put my lights on, but oh well. Hopefully you can see pretty good. Will you be able to see the cards? Yeah, that's good enough for me. All right, y'all. How are y'all doing? I wanted to come on earlier and bring this message forward, but I've learned to be patient with my process when I'm receiving a message. So I wanted to come on and talk about Chiron moving into the sign of Taurus, how that is connecting to the resurrection, the reclamation of the divine feminine. And also, I feel like it also correlates and brings in another layer of information to the fact that this particular year, the Odu was also Meiji, which was about the Ayami Osaranga Aji, which is the dark feminine um, divine force, this magical force, this cosmic force. So let's go back to the astrological part of this. So Chiron, if you have not heard, Chiron is an asteroid, from my understanding. Better yet, is classified as a centaur. Okay. Now in mythology, Chiron was the child of they would call Zeus or Kronos, right? Kronos was a shapeshifter, which means that he would change his form. And he shapeshifted into a stallion, a horse, and went and impregnated Philaria, which was Chiron's mother, which was like a nymph, I think a water nymph. And when she gave birth to Chiron, she was appalled because he was half man, half human, a centaur. And so there are different versions of the mythology, just like even in the Odus and the different Patakis, depending upon what tradition you read, there are different versions of those stories. In Greek and Roman mythology, the same thing holds true, but it doesn't take away from the foundational context of the meaning of the story, which is in this one aspect or one story says that Chiron's mother was appalled and she abandoned him and she left him on this mountain. And he stayed on this mountain so long that he was able to learn to heal his own inner woundedness, his own darkness, right? There is another version of this mythology that says that Apollo comes along and shines light, right? Because Apollo is the god of light. And he taught Chiron arts of healing and music and these different sciences or what have you, okay? So there are different mythologies. And another thing about Chiron, he's known as the wounded healer, okay? So Chiron represents, in your natal chart, it represents hidden and concealed wounds that you have in some way inherited from your parents, from your ancestors. So they represent, some would call this intergenerational trauma, even. You can look at it that way, okay? So the thing about Chiron is, though, when you learn to heal this, okay, through going through this suffering, you develop a skill, maybe even a medicine that you can then offer to others who are also in their journey of evolution and healing. So Chiron, although it does represent heavier energy in your natal chart, once you learn to transcend that energy, integrate, heal, transmute that energy that is represented by Chiron, you are then bestowed with this gift and this ability, okay? I'm having a great day. Thank you for asking. So I think I believe in synchronicity, and Chiron moved into Taurus. Now, had been in Aries, okay? Had been in Aries. And I'm going to tell you something that I did notice. People who were Aries, or even people who may have been Libra too, may have experienced this as well, where they were struck by some sudden illness, okay? And oftentimes, not really, maybe they didn't understand the root of this, but this cycle, what it does is it gets to the root of surface level stuff. So, things that you may have only been dealing with and understanding on a surface level because of this sickness, because of you getting sick, because of this coming to the surface, because anytime a planet or asteroid or anything is conjunct your sun, your moon, important parts in your chart like that, it will trigger events. It will trigger that aspect of your life, or even that house, right? Which represents an aspect of your life. So Chiron moved into Taurus on the 19th, which was Juneteenth Day. Okay. Now, I don't believe in coincidence, and the Hermetic law tells us not to believe in coincidence, that there are no such things as coincidence. Everything happens under divine law. Okay. And if you don't understand the law is the problem, but it's all based on synchronicity. So I believe in synchronicity. So when I looked at Juneteenth Day and I looked at some of the astrology around it, specifically just trying to see where Chiron was at that time, because the original day of Juneteenth was 6/19/1865. Now, it's been hard for me to get an accurate chart on this time, because technology really is not going back that far. I've tried a couple of things. I haven't tried Chat GTP, and I'm going to caution you guys to be very careful with Chat GTP giving you charts and stuff, because they will tell you the wrong shit. And if you don't know no better, you will believe that shit. I was like, this is not right. I'm just rationalizing, looking at it and what I know based on astrology. And I'm like, this is not right. You're giving me contradictory information. This isn't right. So I'm not going to say where all the planets were at that time, because I really can't confirm that. What I have been able to find out is that Chiron was in Pisces during this time when this actually happened. Now, the last time that Chiron was actually in Taurus was 1968 to 1978. So if you were born during that time, you are actually having what is called your Chiron return. Chiron has returned to the same place, the same sign that it was in when you were born. Okay. So what does this mean? This will be an opportunity for you to heal deeper generational trauma and concealed wounds. Okay. Now, I myself personally saw the writing on the wall, and I began to become very, very proactive. Understanding that this was going to be a cycle, to where if I wasn't proactive and I didn't face what I know, or be more progressive about it, more active, more aggressive even, in healing and dealing with. Also, think about Chiron as shadow healing things that are in your shadow work that needs to be done on a soul level as well. So basically, if you're having your Chiron return, you want to be proactive. You don't want to procrastinate with your health. That's mental. That's mental, physical, spiritual. Okay. You want to be proactive with your health. You want to be proactive with taking care of yourself and taking care of the things that are triggered and that come up. Don't avoid it. Don't go into avoidance mode. Chiron will be here for about 8 years. Now, I did a little bit of research, and hey, how you doing? I did a little bit of research, and I wanted to know where Chiron, what happened the last Chiron was in Taurus, because I like to look at the historical data and see, does that match with the energy and information that I have been receiving about Chiron. Millie, don't you come up here crying. Look at my grandbaby. Millie. I'm not doing a live, Mar. You can't chase him up here, Lord. That's my little grandbaby. So, what was I saying about Chiron? Oh, yeah. So I like to look at the historical data too, to help me to understand, if these things are matching, if this information is aligning. So 1968, which was when Chiron moved into that sign, we had Martin Luther King assassination, we had Robert Kennedy's assassination, the Civil Rights Movement, the worldwide student protests, and there was unrest in Paris. 69, we had the Apollo 2 moon landing, which some people disagree and say that they didn't really do that, but this is when that was supposed to have happened. Stonewall uprising, that's when we had Woodstock. In 1970, we had the first Earth Day celebration. What else? Expansion to women's rights. The women's rights movement became a big thing. 71, the end of Bretton Woods monetary system. We had the conversion So we went from a gold standard system at that time, 73. They had an oil crisis. They had fuel shortages, major economic instabilities. And that was worldwide. 74, we had Richard Nixon resign. We had economic recession and inflation. 75, there was the Vietnam War. There were shifts in global power and foreign policy. And then in 76, we had growing interest in holistic healing became a thing, right? With this whole, like, you want to think hippie movement, right? 77, we had release, Star Wars came out that year, the rise of the personal computer. So we had a lot of technological advancements. In 78, they had the year that I was born in 78. We had the birth of the first IVF baby. That back then they was calling test tube babies. Okay, the first IVF baby, 78. So, what are the themes that we can expect for this? Well, Spirit has been dealing with me and talking to me, and the goddesses have been talking. And I'm actually going to pull some cards, you guys. I got a couple decks right here that I'm going to pull some cards and just see what message the goddess, you know, the Osaranga Aji, the Ayami Osaranga Aji have. But yes, what I've been feeling from the spirit and what they've been showing me, and even what I know about astrology. So Taurus is ruled by Venus. Taurus rules the second house in the zodiac wheel, which in astrology they call that the karmic wheel of life. Okay, leftover desires, because karma in the Hindu tradition, they say your karma basically represents on a certain level desire, because kama was the god of desire, right? Kama was like Eros, basically, okay? Or like Cupid, think in that terms, Kama, the god of desire and sexuality, right? So karma, right? What happens in Hindus beliefs when we have leftover desire, things that we wanted to do, things that our soul was supposed to do that we didn't get to complete, obligations, right? That leftover stuff causes us to reincarnate and be on this wheel, the karmic wheel of life. And pretty much what we have been doing from lifetime to lifetime is reincarnating, going all around this wheel, right? So the second house, Taurus, says each of the houses say something. They have like a affirmation, basically. So Taurus says, I own. Okay, I own and I value. So the second house represents what you own in a very physical, material sense, like money, property, you know, jewelry, anything that you can own that could be considered an asset or something that you value, that holds value, that has value. But also in a philosophical sense, your values, your value system, self-value, okay, also is represented in the second house. So you might want to take a look at your second house and just see what's there. So what I feel like is going to happen with this particular transit of Chiron is there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to happen, that are, because also Taurus deals with the earth plane, right? The physical earth plane. So when you think of Taurus, think of pentacles. Okay, think of like the King of Pentacles, right? Or the Queen of Pentacles energy, right? If we want to talk about astrology. So I feel like there's going to be, and I've heard people say this and I agree with it. I've heard this over and over and over again, and Spirit has repeated it to me. You have Cancer in your second house. Okay, so that's interesting. So the second house represents like how you make money. Okay, how you are also when you make, how you are when you make money. Cancer is more about the motherly energy, healing. It deals with working with women. It deals with working with watery energy, with healing energy, with divine feminine energy. Okay, that also says Cancer talks about your home, right? Because Cancer naturally rules the fourth house. So it talks about your home. It talks about your roots. Also with that Cancer energy, it could be things dealing with banking, okay? Because our financial system, our monetary system here in the United States, our banking system, our Federal Reserve is in the sign of Cancer. Okay, so that deals with banking, that deals with flow. Think about it, money, the moon controls the tide. We call our money currency. So you may want to invest, okay? Investing would be good for you, dealing with currency, things that deal with currency. You know, you may want to find ways to get banking products, okay, to help you invest. Also, working with women, working in career paths that deal with women. You may have property or need to have property by water because we're talking about the energy of Cancer, right? This is just some of the ways that this could work. Working with things that deal with elements, providing services at people's home, being somebody who provides home health care or services where you go to their home, right? That's another thing, very nurturing, caring type of thing. It could be, any career path that deals with that. We're talking about Cancer energy. And it also, Cancer energy, this also talks about how you manifest money, okay, as well, how you manifest assets, right? And the types of things that you will own is also represented in your second house. So with Taurus and Chiron, that's going to really bring back power, and it's going to bring back inherited land, is what the goddess was saying to me. Actually, what the goddess said to me was, go get your Bible, which I had to, because she kept saying the meek shall inherit the earth. And the first thing I want to say is meek doesn't mean weak. It's not what they're talking about when they say the meek. Okay, well, sound like you're in the right profession. Ready to go right there. It says it in your chart. Okay, so that's when you know you are in alignment. Sometimes when we're in alignment, when we really are following our soul's path, our heart's path, then we're going to notice that the things that are in our chart are going to be confirmed by what's happening in our lives. Okay, and that's a good comforting thing, because sometimes we may get off path a little bit, or it may be time for us to shift things. Some people really don't know who they are, or sometimes they're living life for other people, and so they're going after career paths and trying to make money in ways that's not natural and innate to them, or going align with their chart. They're really going against the grain, so to speak, trying to do what somebody else is doing, trying to mimic and do what somebody else is doing, and not necessarily doing it from their own integral place of I feel a desire. Like I said, karma, it means duty. Karma means duty. It means work, right? Saturn is known as the Lord of karma, okay? So you understand karma. It is not always negative. It's not always a bad thing, okay? So certain things have happened. So the land that was naturally, so the indigenous people who actually, I don't want to say own the land, because they keep having me say this. You can't own something that's living. The indigenous people understood that. They will see that would be a spot, would be very Cancerian, because Cancers are very nurturing. And it's like, I want to stay home and I want to get in the bath and, want to pamper myself and I want to put on some lotion, and, so that's definitely in alignment with second house and Cancer. Okay. Very much so. Spas are all about, skincare, caring for yourself. And what are they using spas? They're washing your face. They're giving you body scrubs, taking care of your skin. That's very Cancerian type of energy. Okay, very Cancerian. And you want to work with Cancer energy to help you to manifest assets and wealth. You want to work with the moon more. You want to work with the moon when it's in Cancer. You want to work with the sun when it's in Cancer. Right now, the sun is in Cancer. You want to work with energies, deities that are connected to the moon, connected to Cancer. They're going to help you to manifest wealth. Yama yama mi wata. Luna is another one. There are so many different, deities that resonate on that water lunar energy. Okay. Just some tips, when the moon is in Cancer, good time to, whether it's a new moon, whether it's a full moon, working with the energy of Cancer, working with planets when they are in the sign of Cancer, when Venus is in Cancer, obviously, like I said, when the moon is in Cancer. Jupiter has been in Cancer, so this would have been a good time for you to do a lot of Jupiter rituals, because Jupiter is about expansion, and Jupiter would have helped you to grow and expand what is in your second house. Also working with the element of water, finding ways to bring in water crystals, the actual water, just working with that element more. Okay, it's going to help you in manifesting. And working with water and manifesting wealth is really good, because again, we call our currency water. So maybe even burning blue candles. Sometimes I burn blue candles for prosperity. One, Jupiter is blue, but also water resonates as blue, and blue represents flow. So you want your money to flow. If money is getting stagnant, if it's kind of coming in little spurts here and there and it's kind of dry, how you doing? You want to start burning those blue candles and doing them on a Jupiter day, like today. A Thursday would be really good. Okay. So the meek, not meek as in weak, but meek as in humble. They mean humble. So that was one of the messages that came up. Let me go put this. Let me get this light. Okay, that's better because it was getting real dark. Okay, what was I saying? I just had to stop, right? Oh, so working with the energy of the flow of money, burning blue candles is going to help you to get things flowing, help you to get currency, get things moving, right? So with the fact that Chiron went into Taurus on the same day as Juneteenth, to me, it was also talking about the events of Juneteenth, the roots of that. People who we know really are indigenous. This is what they don't want us to know. And this is what they don't teach us in school, is that everybody that is black, that is African American, well, that is black, let's start there, that is black, that is in America, that was born in America, did not come here on a slave ship. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that the true indigenous people of this land, not the people that we see that is based on misogyny, that are people that became $5 Indians. Okay, do you know what a $5 Indian is? What they used to do, they used to take the Indians' land. They would take their, European people would come, they would take their daughter because only women could inherit land. Remember, I was just also saying you couldn't own a living thing. The indigenous people were stewards of the land, and women were the stewards of the land. They were the caretakers. We are caretakers and stewards of the land. Where we went wrong with this capitalistic explorer conqueror mentality, that we can own the land. The land is a living, breathing thing. Okay, so they didn't own the land. They were caretakers of the land. They were stewards of the land. And we all did not come over here on slave ships. Some of us were already here. We were already here. Okay. There are tribes, Native American tribes, that have a history that they were always here. Okay. You will hear the Nubians, and some of what they're teaching is not wrong. Okay. I don't disagree with a lot of what they're teaching, especially when they're talking about the Americas, and the South America, okay, and who the indigenous people of that land was. And not only that, but Africans, people who were indigenous to the continent of Africa. And remember, there was once Pangea, where all of this was not all of these different continents. They were like a supercontinent called Pangea, where all these continents fit together. You can look at them like a puzzle and look at the pieces of how they're shaped and fit them back together, how they went. So people were walking across land. These people have been going back and forth and spreading out from the center. So these phenotypes and genetic types, okay, when we talk about DNA, you'll find the same phenotype and genetic types of people in different lands. Why is that? They're not all, again, we didn't all come over here on slave ships, okay? So these people here that thought they were free during Juneteenth, when they were not free. If you have done your research and don't listen to the history that they give you, that they tell you that the Emancipation Proclamation freed anybody. It did not. There are Native people in Ghana. I was shocked when I saw them there on reservations. Okay? Listen to what I'm telling you. See, the thing is, they don't expect for people didn't used to be able to communicate. If you didn't go to Africa, if you didn't go to these places, and see for yourself, then they could keep things sequestered. They have done a lot to sequester, to hide, to conceal information. Okay? You have to be on a journey of truth. in order to get to this information, and be diligent and consistent, because they don't make it easy. Okay. So I said all that to say this: the people that we think of as slaves that were freed, many of those bloodlines had already been here, had land here, had wealth here, had dynasties here. Even in Detroit, I found people. I told you guys before, this guy that was in the Moore Science Temple. He called himself Sun. He was a Cancer. And he put me up on a lot of information at a time where I really didn't know anybody who was dealing with what I was channeling, because I had just started to channel. I had started to awaken, and I was starting to receive a lot of messages, and I was doing a lot of research. And I think, I was awakening in such a way to where the people that were immediately around me were not awakening at that time. So they couldn't relate, and they didn't understand what I was dealing with. And so for a long time, I was very solitary and just, studying, reading, and doing my thing. And finally, I was connected with him, and he actually added more depth and a lot of confirmation to what I was dealing with, and really helped to better align me on my path at that time. Very much appreciative of him. He took out a lot of time with me, teaching me a lot of stuff and confirming a lot of stuff for me. And a lot of that more science stuff, Bobby Hemmett also, Brother Panic, Azazel Bay, rest in peace, Brother Panic and Azazel Bay, Azazel, I'm saying his name wrong. But, there was a lot of people that brought a lot of information and knowledge for it. I remember Bobby Hemmett told me, as I was studying, as I was early in my spiritual journey, and I was still had just met and was meeting and learning about the Moore Science Temple information, and the Nubian and all these different movements, all this information, these people that I was actually getting more confirmation from. And he told me in a video, he said, know what class you're in. It's good to know this information in the Moore Science Temple, but don't go around here filing all this paperwork and thinking you about to start doing this and that and leaning judges and stuff. They're going to throw your ass in jail one day. They're going to let you get so far with this shit. And you probably right what you're doing. But guess what? The problem is being right. When is being right has ever made a person's attempt successful all the time, especially in the world that we live in. Okay? You have to deal with this from a spiritual place. And that's what Bobby was saying. Don't deal with this from the mundane place, trying to get your acre of the mule and, get your 30 pieces of silver, and you about to go get your $2 million and get your black card. And I know some people who was doing it big and then they fail big. And I mean 10 years in federal penitentiary big, okay? They were doing a lot of extra stuff too. It wasn't just about paperwork, but they was using that paperwork to back up a lot of other illegal shit they was doing. And it worked for a minute, but when the house cards fell, it fell hard. Okay. They still ended up doing the time or doing time. Maybe they did less. This person probably might have deserved a lot more time. I might say that. So maybe it was beneficial overall. Okay. But it is not the get out of jail free card that people think it is. It is not the get rich scheme that it is. And this person, I will say, he did have some spiritual knowledge. He was dealing with some spiritual things to be a man. But again, it's not the get rich thing. You need to be looking at it from a bigger context. We are supposed to be inheriting the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. The humble, those who are humble in spirit, those who have lived humbly, okay, are going to what? Inherit the earth. That is what the Bible said. Made me even go get the Bible first, y'all. And I believe in reading the word, because within the word there is power. And I don't care how many Orishas I work with or deities I work with, I am always going to go back to my Bible. And let me just say this. This Bible was written by the Sibyls. The Sibyls were the high priestesses of Mami Wata. Today is the feast day of Mami Wata, okay? Y'all got to get with it. Now, you should be working with Mami Wata today, okay? You even got on here to talk about your Cancer energy, Mami Wata. Mami Wata is not just one deity. She represents a multitude of deities, of spirits, a family of spirits, maybe even, okay? Some even say that an aspect of Mami Wata may be La Madama, okay? Some say that she's even an aspect of Mami Wata. She is the mother of water, okay? And she is a mermaid being in spirit, okay? She favors women. She does work with men too. And there's all these stories about, people going to different lakes and rivers and places and going and meeting with Mami Wata. And, she gives you wealth, but you have to give her something back, okay, and these type of things. That's just talking about an offering, okay? Give and take, there has to be balance, okay? There has to be balance. You don't go to the store and just take what you want. There is an exchange of energy, okay? There's an exchange that has to happen. But Mami Wata, the priestesses, the original Sibyls were the priestesses of Mami Wata, okay? Mami Water. And so the Sibyls, like the oracles of Delphi, were Sibyls, okay? The queen of Sheba, Makeda, she was a Sibyl. She came from a bloodline of Sibyls. Sibyls were like the oracles, okay? They were the high priestesses, and they carried and had this sacred knowledge for many, many hundreds of thousands of years, okay? This information, this knowledge, these stories, this context, this information was theirs. And when the matriarchal system and the matrilineal system didn't just fall, they went to war with women. They went to war with the matriarch and with the matrilineal system. Please be clear, okay? The Salem witch trials, all these witch trials that were in all these other places, the Ayami, Osanaga Aji, because the spirit, these goddesses, they work through me, but they are around me as well. And so over the last, I would say 10 years at least, I have been repeatedly, different women were coming across different stories of women that were considered to be witches, that were hung, that were killed, that were murdered, okay? And the theme over and over again, I actually posted, if you go look on my community service page, sometimes I will post really interesting things that I find value in and hope that some of you will find value in it as well. Go check it out. There's one where they show all these different women that we would call witches or whatever you want to call them, oracles, spiritualists, what have you. And it's all about reincarnation. And there's one woman where there were so many instances in her bloodline of women being hung as witches in Salem, and even in Europe. She went to Scotland and found out. Then she did a past life regression, which she's like, she went through this awakening, and she began to remember a memory that she says she's talking with her mom. She said, "Mom, do you remember when me and you used to talk about what we were in a past life? And I always told you that I was killed as a witch." She said, "I had that memory. It came back to me." So she went and got a past life regression where they hypnotized her. And what life did she go to? Where she was being killed as a witch, where she was being hung. They were coming and taking her out of the cell. And she was able to actually go find historical record of women, 2 women who were killed and hung in Salem, and connected to her memories. Do you still do readings on here? I don't. I'm gonna pull some cards for the goddess, but I haven't really been doing no like readings on here. The few times that I tried to do it, it seemed like people wasn't interested, so I moved on. But yes, this theme coming up over and over again. I'm saying this to say this. We were not only traumatized out of our land rights, because these men that would then accuse women of being a witch. And some of these women, let's be honest, because if you're watching me, you believe in witches. Okay, and you're probably one. And if you don't want to accept that word has so much stigma. Oh my God, it has so much stigma. People in this community, some of them who are older and who've been conditioned, they don't like to hear that word. They're like, "Oh my God, I'm not a witch, I'm everything else." People were calling me a witch, and I was like, "I'm a spiritualist. I'm spiritual." And in the community, she a witch. I remember this guy that I was cool with told me, somebody told him, "Don't go over her house and eat no spaghetti and drink no Kool-Aid. She a witch." This is when I was young, which I was probably about just coming into my awakening. I was probably about 25, 26 when he told me this. Now I'll be 48 this year. I was like, "Oh, really?" I wasn't gonna offer your ass no food, no way. So don't worry about eating no spaghetti and Kool-Aid. Mighty fun. This nigga was always at my house trying to eat some shit, looking hungry, looking like he need to eat. Okay, but the audacity of him. But that's the type of shit that they did to women. Why? Because they wanted their power. They wanted their land. These women not only were witches and had supernatural power, they owned land. It was a matrilineal system. Matrilineal mean women rule. That meant even in not just the indigenous people, but in other cultures, women were the only people who could inherit land. When there was somebody who passed on, they had to pass on the land to the women in the line. The men could not inherit. The women had the power as far as to rule, okay? Not as a consort, as a queen consort, where the man has the power to rule. It was the woman. Even in the indigenous time in the clans, guess what? It was all matrilineal. The people who was the chief, it was all based on who your mother was. You inherited based on the mother. Everything went through the mother. They didn't like that. Think about it. If you up under a force, under a whole gender of people, and you are sitting there, waiting for your come up, angry, envious, jealous, and mad, waiting for them to let their guard down, which we did. And I told you what the transmission was that came from spirit of how we did fall in power, is that we didn't do our elbow. We did not do the spiritual work that we were told to do, because we had been in power for so long that we got comfortable. And they took that opportunity. And don't think that the patriarch didn't have magic. They were sorcerers. They were wizards, okay? They just were using the Bible. And please understand, everybody, this Bible can be used for good or evil, okay? It can. It is a spell book. It is a book where you can receive divine messages and information, okay? But it can be used for good or evil. It is a tool, ultimately, okay? It's knowledge, and knowledge is power, and it can be wielded for good or evil. It can be wielded for the benefit of one or the benefit of many. It's up to what's in the heart and mind of the practitioner. That's what dictates whether something is good or evil. Magic is not good or evil. Being a witch is not good or evil. It's within the heart of that person. Just like some of these pastors and preachers are some of the most wicked, greedy, some of these conscious, theologians out here. And I don't believe that we have to be impoverished, but some of these people really are just pimping y'all. Okay, it's just the old pimp system. And I'm gonna tell you what a real man. I'm gonna have to try to go find this. There was a guy who was doing an interview on YouTube. Is the Quran also a spell book? First of all, let me tell you that the Quran was not received by Muhammad. Okay, Muhammad did not get the Quran. He did not write the Quran. He did not channel the Quran. The Quran is older than him. Okay, it is older than him. And it is a sacred text. Look into the goddesses that a lot of times, if you hear about them, they call it the satanic verses, and they call, the goddesses in there. You may hear mention of them a lot. What is it? Manat, a lot. And it's M-A-N, because they represent the Trinity. They represent the goddess threefold. And they do make reference to them in the Quran, but briefly. And people will tell you that the stories and the verses that are about them are evil and not to work with them. Why? Because that's what they did with everything that was feminine power and knowledge. It became evil. Why? Because they couldn't destroy everything. They couldn't tear down all the temples. A lot of the temples that are on the earth right now, okay, temples to Jupiter, pyramids that pharaohs are on now. One thing about Egypt that you can tell, and I haven't been there, but I've seen a lot of pictures and videos and things, they changed them statues so much. The pyramids were changed. The Sphinx doesn't even look the way it originally did. Bobby Hemmings said the Sphinx originally was a dog. It was Anubis. And then they changed the head. Now, they do tell you that they can tell that the head of the Sphinx has been changed. What the patriarch did, as they conquered and destroyed, as they went in, raped, murdered, killed, and pillaged the indigenous women. They had to get into the bloodlines through misogyny. Okay. They went in and enacted war on these women. The indigenous people, they called them, what they were doing were evil. And what were they doing? They were civilizing these people. Then they had the 5 civilized tribe, you know, because now you've accepted our doctrine and we've taken away your culture, your knowledge, your wisdom. Okay. So they have destroyed a lot of stuff, but they could not destroy everything. So they had to, and they couldn't take out what is in us. This knowledge as a goddess, as a divine feminine, as a high priestess, as a witch, as a Aji, as the Ayami Osaranga Aji, you have knowledge encoded in your DNA, in every fiber and cell of your being. You have codes in your womb, like the Magdalene codes. Okay, I've channeled and worked a lot with Mary Magdalene and Sarah Lakali. Okay, there are codes within us. This is why I was talking about needing to do work. And let me just do this. That's my sacral chakra bell. We need to work on that sacral chakra, y'all. That's what my activating the divine feminine workshop was about. It was about first giving you some of this knowledge back, because knowledge is power. You have no more power than you have knowledge. And that's what we lacked. I remember when, I'm sorry, y'all, this thing has hurt my head. I remember when Son was sitting talking to me, the Moorish master that I met. And he asked me, Crystal, what's wrong with our people? Why are they suffering? And I said, it's because of the lack of knowledge, because they don't know this. And they didn't know what I know now, because I didn't know it. But I knew the power in it was I knew that I didn't know. I knew that there was things that I didn't know. And I knew that it was something I was supposed to find out. I even told my friend once. I said, I feel like there's something I'm supposed to be figuring out. This is when I was very early in waking up, you know, literally first 2, 3, maybe 5 years of having gone through my first awakening. I was like, I feel like there is something that I'm supposed to be figuring it out. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot they was hiding from me. It was a lot they was hiding from you. Okay. I'm here to give you a little bit of that information back, but believe me, don't let what I'm saying to you be the end of your search and your depth of information that I'm sharing with you. Don't believe me. Do the research for yourself. Do your own due diligence. Okay? Okay? Okay. So, some of the sense you want to borrow, though. Okay? Like my aunt used to say, bought sense is better than borrowed. So, but sometimes you want to borrow some. Okay? Sometimes you want to borrow a little bit. You don't want to have to go through everything. She was a Capricorn who said that to me. So, she was speaking truly from her own self-knowledge. And there is nothing better than experience to teach you, believe me, but you can learn vicariously and avoid and save yourself a lot of pain. A lot of pain, okay? But they destroyed a lot of stuff. And they had to traumatize us. They had to do magic on us. One of the things that I also discovered about when they would kill these witches, when they would do these crusades that they went on, okay, they had different names for this stuff now, okay? The Spanish Inquisition, okay? These were religious, right, wars against the ruling, because it was there was a system, okay? That's why you always see the preachers around the politicians. Who do you think doing their magic? Don't think that these preachers ain't doing magic. You speak a spell with your tongue. What do? They pray. What does the preacher do? He sits to you at the altar. You see my altar right here, right? But guess what? Your soul. Your soul is the altar. Your body is the temple. And your soul is the altar that you work at every day. So you don't have to work. That's why, you know, they didn't believe in churches in this sense as this physical structure. In Stigmata, it talked about how really what they don't like and what things they've taken out of the Bible. Go get some of these, go get the Ethiopian Bible. There's a lot of stuff in there that they've taken out. And they are the oldest hermetic lineage on earth. That is where they say the Ark of the Covenant truly is. There's someone who lives there and dies there to guard this, what they call the Ark of the Covenant. Okay? But they've done a lot. They've done magic. So I'll tell you about the mass spell. Think about it. In order to do a spell, this is why I try to tell people, the more powerful the spell, the bigger the sacrifice. Okay? The bigger what you must give up, whether it's your own energy, you're putting a lot of energy into it. I've done spells and literally, not just a day, I mean, a week or two, was like, ugh. I had to go outside and draw energy from the earth because I don't steal energy from people. Some people will just go connect with somebody and steal their energy, okay? I don't do that. I get energy from source energy. I don't want dirty energy, siphoning off energy from somebody, energy, vampiring up energy. That's not how I get my energy, okay? I get my energy from source and I know how to recharge myself. So you have to stop and recharge yourself because you burn out. You give up so much energy. If you're working with a deity and the deity is the one doing all the energy and this energy is coming more from outside of you than it is from inside of you. And some of the things that people want, and they will go to these dark demonic entities. King James also wrote a book on demonology. King James also was that the Mal Chiron, that witch's book about how to find a witch, kill him, and hang him, and all this shit. Real interesting. Real interesting how they find a cause, to get what they want, because all military is about the money. Okay, it's about the land. It's about the power. Okay, so they had to do spells. They would kill 12 women. When they would do these witch hangings, they said it had to be a coven. And a coven, not 12, sorry, 13. And they had to kill 13 women. If they only found 12, they would keep looking and they're going to find somebody. Because the way they tortured you, whether you were a real witch or not, you were admitting to witchcraft. And not only that, you were telling on anybody whether they was a witch or not. Some of these people were actually witches. The woman who was in this documentary that I did post on my page, go look at it on my community page. She practiced witchcraft then. She practicing it now. Okay. But some of these women were not what you would call a witch. Some of them were traditional healers. But a witch is a healer. That is her gift. Her gift is healing. Okay. Witch just means wise woman. It comes from a Wiccan word that means wise woman. It became an evil thing with stigma when the patriarch decided that they had to come and had to have a cause, right? To then go and uproot their power and overthrow them. They were overthrown. Now they were overthrown because they didn't stabilize themselves in the power that they needed to, which was in spirit and making sure that they did their offering. So they had to sacrifice a lot. Remember, people are sacrificing humans to gods, okay? Olokun, they sacrifice humans to Olokun. A lot of these deities and stuff, they sacrifice humans to these deities. We think about, oh my God, it's barbaric that they're killing animals. What do you think wars are about? They're sacrificing to war gods. I used to have a client that actually was like he did tech stuff, very smart man. And he did some stuff for some people that did some stuff for some people that was involved in worship. And when he told me the name of the company he was working for, and I'm the kind of person, I look at everything. It was a war god. They even named the company after a war god. Corporation, an entity. Remember, a corporation is a corporate fiction. It's called a corporate entity. Come on now. How do you make your corporation, your LLC, all of that, S Corp? You got to have your paperwork together, right? You got to do the paperwork. What is that? Magic. Words. Mercury. Air magic. Okay? So not only that, they were sacrificing all these women, 13 women. That's the number of the goddess. Then what did they do with the number 13? They made us afraid of the number 13. They told you it was evil. They gave you Friday the 13th, the movie. This man killing up people. Then they tell you that Friday the 13th, the actual day, is evil. They don't, they wouldn't even put like a 13th floor on buildings because 13 was supposed to be an evil number. No, 13 is the number of the goddess. It's the number of the feminine Christ, the Sophia. Okay, 12 represents the Christ. 13 represents the divine feminine, the Sophia. the Shekinah, the Alat. These are the words for that energy. Christ didn't die for your sins to save you. You have to die to the physical you, okay, and be reborn into your Christ consciousness, and you save yourself. Christ didn't, for these Christians that think it ain't got to do nothing. Yeah, keep thinking. That's why you're going to keep reincarnating. You're going to be stuck in a dimension based on your beliefs. This is why it's important to get this knowledge before you get too old and you go through the journey of the underworld. Because if you don't have this knowledge, you're going to make bad decisions. That's what the Book of the Dead was about. It's about teaching you how to navigate the underworld after death. And the rituals that you need. Okay? It was about going back to source and not reincarnating on this karmic wheel of life that we have been doing, right? So, all of that to say this. That's the mass spell. They did what? They did the rituals. They did the prayers, okay? And believe me, there was more going on than just what that Bible was saying. How do you think King James knew so much about a book to write a book about demonology? What did Solomon use to build his temple? The jinn, and other demons. They even say Beelzebub helped him build the temple. And he had a signet ring that he used to control them. Okay? So please believe me, they're only giving you half of the story. Half of the story. Not telling you everything that they do and all that's going on. Those preachers, they're doing magic too. They're doing Christian magic, like the Valerie Love says, Christian magic. It's still magic. Magic means using the power of the elements to create change. Your words, your thoughts. That's magic. Magic is not all done in a candle. It's not all done in a sigil. Okay? Or some bath or something physical that you can see. That's only a very small part of the magic, even for the candle work. I always tell people the real work happens after the candle goes out. That's when the real shit popping. That go off easy. They're like, how about candle work go good? Let me see what happened to you, though. Let's see what happened afterwards. That is the real indication. That's when the real work starts. And it's happening on the unseen level. It's happening on the subtle realms, okay? On the spiritual level. And then it manifests in the physical. That's how all things work. That's why you have to start in the physical to change. Start in the spiritual to change the physical. Many people want to change the physical by dealing with physical things only, by dealing with things on a very logical level. So this particular movement, Chiron, into Taurus, is going to heal generational wounds and trauma that were inflicted upon who? Upon the indigenous people of this land. And what was a part of that? Their culture, their systems, their deities, their gods, all of that stuff that was taken from them has to be restored to them. Their power will be restored along with inheriting the land. But you have to be humble to receive it. It's almost like Anubis at the end, where you have to, they weigh your heart against the scale where Mayat is sitting there with the feather. And does your heart overweigh the feather? You can't be heavy-hearted. You have to be humble and you have to be pure of heart in order to inherit the earth. Now, I'm going to give you the 2 Bible verses that Spirit had me give to you. And they wanted me to actually read the verse, which I'm going to do. Also, too, I got a lot of stuff to talk about. This is going to be a little bit long, but I promised the goddess that she could use me. She could use me today as a vessel to bring forth the message. So, hey, even though I was tired, I was like, let me go do it because I know it needs to be done. So sometimes you got to work through being tired. But one thing, when I started channeling Spirit, if I was tired before I got on, like right now, I feel very energized because I'm channeling all this Spirit. But before, baby, I was letting it be like, I'm a little tired. Oh, God, I'm going to have to pull it together. I promised that I would do this when I get home. I was late, yes, because I wanted to come on at 8. But I made it. Never better late, like they say, than never. So, Psalms 37, where it talks about the meek inheriting the earth. And the actual verse where it says that is 37:11, but I'm going to start from the beginning of 37. Fret not yourself because of evildoers. Be not envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit yourself to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in the way, over the man who carries out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourself, it tends only to evil. For the evildoer shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the land and delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plotteth against the righteous and garnishes his teeth at him. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he sees that his day is coming. Okay? I never forget one day I was walking out of this building where you like go there and they do all this job training stuff and help you look for jobs. I was young. This is why I was going through my awakening. I was my first awakening, probably that year I was having it or the year after. I remember I was walking in the door and this woman stopped and she said that to me. She said that verse to me. Delight yourself in the Lord and he shall give you the desires of your heart. I'll never forget it. It was like the spirit will do me like that. I'll be somewhere and a person will just stop me like out of nowhere and give me a message and be like, okay, I just had to tell you that. Has that ever happened to y'all? That has been my experience, okay? So the last verse is Proverbs 8, okay? And I think this is so interesting, 8, the number 8, why? Man, I've been seeing the number 8 so much. I love when I see the number 8 a lot because that's my wealth code number. That's my money number, right? That's like, okay. Like anybody who know me, I'm really big on astrology. My business, Enchanted Divas, you want to know why I spelled it the way I did? D-E-V-A-S? Enchanted Diva? Why did I spell it that way? Because it comes to the letter 8, the number 8. I wanted to encode my business with the energy of the number 8. Because I wanted it to be successful. I wanted it to be wealthy. I wanted it to make money. I wanted it to be self-sufficient because 8 is what? It's the infinity symbol, right? Energy is neither created or destroyed. It is only transmuted and transferred, right? That's what the number 8 says. That's what the number 8, that's a part of the law of the number 8, the infinity. So I can tell you one thing, Enchanted Divas will experience its 12th year anniversary in October. Okay? Something to that. Okay? I'm very meticulous when I create things. Okay? So I've been seeing 8 everywhere. I seen 888 earlier today on the license plate on my way to work. Then I seen 5588. I've been just seeing 888 just everywhere. 888. Now we got the number 8 on this verse. Okay? Very powerful number. This year, remember that as she says, Ire, means blessings and about wealth. If you align with that energy, if you align with your inner goddess, because everybody's energy is different. The way that your energy is embodied and the way you embody the divine feminine energy may not be the same as me. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's about being authentic to yourself. So Proverbs 8. Does not wisdom call? Does not understanding raise her voice? Do you see this where it says her? Why is wisdom being called her? Wisdom, chokum. They will tell you that in the Kabbalah, somebody asked about the Kabbalah. They will tell you that the Sifra, chokum, is masculine. It is not. It is feminine. It is feminine wisdom. That is what choka means. It means wisdom. Sophia is the goddess of wisdom. Sophia is the feminine Christ. Okay. Go and look up. Well, a lot of people really studied this. The Rosicrucians dealt with this knowledge. Okay. The Essenes dealt with this knowledge as well. Okay. The goddess of Sophia. There's even a book I have called The Priestess Sophia. I started really channeling, like I said, they was working with me when I started really unlocking this stuff in myself. And in order for you to unlock it in yourself, you have to get the knowledge. It's a part of waking up what's in your subconscious. It's about making sense of the symbols and the things that you're drawn to and connecting the dots. It's about activating codes that are within you. It's about turning off DNA that has become dormant, what they call epigenetic changes. Look at epigenetic, this epigenetic sciences is a whole new science dedicated to how generational trauma, intergenerational trauma, the type of trauma that Chiron talks about, how that type of trauma will begin to not change your DNA, but change how your DNA is expressed by wrapping or unwrapping certain gene sequences, which means turning on or turning off. Wrap it, turn it off. Unwrap, turn it on. So trauma, I'll give you an example. And I've watched a geneticist who said that trauma can go down 8 generations. 8, at least 8. And this is a newer science that they are starting to study, but this is a science. So let's say, for instance, your granddaddy got beat. They beat him so bad, they broke his back. That trauma was so deep and unhealed in him that it turned on a gene that now his descendants now experience scoliosis or back problems because he had this trauma, this issue that did not get healed, that now has turned on things in the genes, in the bloodline. This is why they say, oh, this runs in your blood. This is why some of you have high blood pressure, or cancer may run in your bloodline, or multiple sclerosis, or mental health issues, or diabetes, and these different things. This is often a result of intergenerational trauma, unhealed stuff within your bloodline that turned on or turned off certain genes that would suppress that sickness. Because certain genes are there to protect you. Okay? So through this process, this has happened to us as women. So the gene sequences that dealt with our power, they don't understand the genome. They call it junk DNA. It's not junk. God don't make no junk. We just don't understand. They just don't understand what it is. Okay? But there are more, from what I understand, there are more strands of DNA than they're telling us about. That junk DNA in itself, it's just something they don't understand. Doesn't mean it has no value. I hate that they gave it that word because it makes you think that that doesn't mean anything. They just don't understand what it is. But from what Spirit has shown me and from what my research has shown me is that there's been things that have been happening to us as women in certain bloodlines on a genetic level that we have to address. Thoth says that you have, in order to heal something, in order to overcome something, you have to deal with it threefold: mind, body, and soul. So some people just want to do spiritual stuff. They just want to light a candle. And they just want to do a ritual. But you have to also address the physical aspect of it, the mundane part of it, the logical part of it, okay? As well as dealing with your soul. So needing to deal with the physical changes that has happened to our DNA, the physical changes that's happened to our body. That's why things like massage helps. Because there's things actually stored. I got this book where it talks about how trauma is stored in our muscles and in our body. And how this is why sometimes you feel like so weighed down and achy and your back hurting and you're this tight and your shoulders hurting and all tight and your neck feel tight. That's what you're carrying trauma. Your hips hurting. You got hip problems and thighs. You're right there. That's where a lot of trauma is stored. The hips and the thighs too. A lot of generational trauma. In the feet, because that is the root chakra and the earth star chakra, okay? Our sacral chakra. We are carrying this trauma in different types of trauma, different types of emotional, mental, or spiritual wounds in different parts of the body. So we also have to address that. You have to address your diet, what you're putting into your body. what you're around, your environment, all of those things are going to help you to transmute the trauma and the energy in yourself, but also in your bloodline. This is why we have to really focus. If you want to inherit the land that's in your bloodline, some of y'all been talking to me, and there's some land. Some of you are supposed to inherit power, whether it's spiritual power, whether it's political power. There's wealth, there's land, there are different things that are a part of the inheritance of your bloodline and your people. But in order for us to be able to be in a position to align with the frequency to receive this energy, we have to be willing to do our work and not just what we're comfortable with. So here, again, Sophia is the divine feminine Christ. She's the feminine energy. She was all in the Bible. They edited it out. They tried to edit her out of the Bible as much as they could. But there are places, if you are diligent and if you seek her, you will find her. Does not wisdom call? Does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way at the crossroads, she takes her stand. Beside the gates, in front of the town, at the entrance of the portal, she cries aloud. To you, O men, I call, and my cry is to the children of men. O simple ones, O simple ones, learn prudence. O fools, learn sense. Herefore I speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right. For my mouth will utter truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are righteous. There is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight to him who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instructions instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare to her. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil, pride and arrogance, and the way of evil. And perverted speech I hate. I counsel in sound wisdom. I have insight, I have strength. By me kings reign and rulers decree what is just. By me princes rule and nobles, all who govern justly. I love those who love me, and those who seek me diligently find me. Riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, and even fine gold, and my yield than the choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness and in the path of justice, granting an inheritance to those who love me and filling their treasures. All right, now, y'all, listen to what the goddess is saying. Now, the last time Chiron was here, we had an advancement in women's rights. We had the civil rights movement. So it's going to come right back around to those same things again. These people, it is time to inherit the earth. And you have to be a good steward of it. Are they still doing these things to modern witches? Absolutely. In Africa, they're still killing witches. They're killing women. And when they say when the women get to a certain age, they kill them off. They have to go off and live in another village in certain places. They're still killing witches. Yes. They're having witch hunts. What do you think they're doing with these women? That's like that TV show. You got to realize they be showing you what they're doing on TV sometimes for real. Like the TV show Coven, American Horror Story. What was they doing? The witch hunters had became what? They were a part of a corporation, multi-million-dollar corporation. And they was coming after women and hunting women like serial killers. Please believe. Okay? Just like there's a woman who practices Reiki, a Kemetic Reiki. And I told you she did a video about a couple weeks ago about how in Atlanta, men have made threats saying that there's a word out there going to attack women these men who have issues with women or don't like women or whatever, that they're going to be attacking women. They've been doing this. And this is why the Ayami Osaranga are in power this year. It's in alignment with Chiron moving into Taurus this year. And what the thing was about what was being healed at that time, Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus rules women. They say women are from Venus, men are from Mars, right? Venus deals with divine feminine energy. It deals with the goddess. Venus's symbol was the dove. The dove is the symbol of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is Sophia. They tried to write her out of there, just like they tried to write women out of the knowledge, out of history, and tried to destroy our temples and destroy pyramids and things that were built by queens that were in rulership, and women and high priestesses, temples that used to be to goddesses. They basically built over and usurped the power. What do you think about the Vatican? The word Vatican means divining serpent. The Vatican sits on top of a temple that used to be dedicated to the goddess Sybil. Coincidence? I think not. Yes. Vatican sits on a mound, a serpent mound. There are serpent mounds all over this earth, and it is feminine energy. There is an entity in the mound, and that entity connected to that serpent energy on the Vatican, the divining serpent, why they call it the Vatican, was Sybil, and she was part serpent. Okay. Also, there is also a temple to Circe that was there. Circe was known as a witch, right? The goddess Circe. There was a temple to her as well on there. They built on top of it. They did this with temples to gods like Jupiter and different. Those were all, even like somebody asked about Islamic things. In Mecca, where people go to the holiest of holies to touch that black cube. Guess what they're really touching? A yoni. They probably wouldn't want to hear that as they go kiss it. That was dedicated to the goddess. You have Alat, who was like the maiden. You got maiden, mother, crone. And these goddesses, you would go there to worship them. This was at their temple. So they had to go and slay the goddess in the temple where they held that black cube in Mecca at. It was actually at a temple to the goddess Alat. They went and took it, slayed the goddess and the priestess that was over that temple, and then took that cube. So a lot of the things that we think of as patriarchal, belonging to men and rulers, and no, they usurped. They build on top of. They have built on top of kingdoms. That's why in Turkey, when they had that earthquake, oh my God, all those people died. Because that was built, it was not built on a steady foundation. They had all kinds of stuff on. They had built on top of temples, mounds. That was the goddess's energy waking up. I told y'all back then that you would see earthquakes and you would see a lot of weather anomalies, especially things in the earth, because she in the Shakti, the feminine serpent energy in the earth, was waking up. So we got a lot of work to do, y'all. Okay, now I'm going to make this short but sweet. I have some information that Spirit wanted me to give y'all about peptides. Now, I have been taking some peptides. First, I had to do some research on it, y'all, because I don't believe in just taking stuff right away. But Spirit brought the information to me. And so I started taking some. I started to experiment with some. And then I started to experiment with more. And I really do like what they do. Now, they want me to share some specific ones with you all, because there are certain peptides that deal specifically with the mitochondrial DNA. And the goddess is saying that we have to restore our mitochondrial DNA as women. That deals a lot with our feminine power. This is what scientists either don't know or won't tell you, okay? The mitochondrial DNA, which is the power storehouse of the cell, it is only passed down through the feminine bloodline. A mother passes to her children, but men don't pass it to their children. Their children will get their mitochondrial from their mother and passed down through them. Men don't pass it down. That's why nuclear DNA can only be tracked back so many generations. But mitochondrial DNA can be tracked back all the way back. Okay, that's why they use tracking mitochondrial DNA when they start trying to find relatives of, like, you know, I'll give an example. Sally Hemings' descendants and Thomas Jefferson, they actually were able to test some of the descendants and test their mitochondrial DNA and find out that they were actually related. So that story was true. So the thing about mitochondrial DNA, it is the storehouse. It's where, think of mitochondrial DNA like your power company that provides the power you need to electricity and different things to run in your house. So the mitochondria provides you with the ATP, the energy that you need so that the cells can do functions and you can move your muscles, you can bat your eyelashes and do all the things and functions that the body needs to do. Your heart will beat, all that takes energy, right? Remember I was talking about how energy has to be created. Well, what? The mitochondria is the energy storehouse, right? Women, we bring the energy here. We're receptive. We the one who bring the energy. Men only direct it outward, right? So you see that in metaphysical sense, but also in the DNA in the scientific sense. So there needs to be a restoration of our mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA also has a lot to do with how we age and our focus. As we get older, the mitochondrial DNA gets damaged due to oxidative damage, okay? Reduces mitochondrial DNA. So taking certain peptides are amino acids, basically. And they're like little keys that help to turn on biological processes within your body. GLPs like trizepatide and semaglutide and all those things, those are a type of peptide, whether you know that or not. And just in the spirit of being transparent, I actually have been taking some GLP-1s, and I've been taking them for 2 reasons. I was actually, I had went and got my blood work done, and I was pre-diabetic. So I needed to take something to help to get my LC down, my A1C numbers down, because it was a little high. Okay, I wasn't diabetic, but I was getting close. Okay. So start taking the GLP-1, and I did want and need to lose some weight as well. One thing, when your blood sugar is high, that does, people tend to put on weight as well, make it difficult to lose weight. So I've been taking that. It has actually been working very well for me. I haven't had any side effects to it. I know a lot of people, can't take it, have a side effect. My mom, she was also pre-diabetic, and she tried to take it, but she had a lot of side effects. I haven't had any. I probably lost about 50 pounds since I started taking it, and I started taking it, I want to say around like October-ish, November of last year. So it hasn't been quite a year yet. And I've lost about 50 pounds so far. I've also experimented with, what is the other one? NAD+. NAD plus is really good because it actually does help you with repairing the mitochondrial DNA. Okay. It helps to give you like enhance your vitality, mental clarity. Like, a lot of people are really saying a lot of good things about that particular peptide. I also have taken BPC 157. That supports, I got some notes here, y'all. That supports your cellular repair, enhances antioxidants defense, stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis, which means creation of new mitochondrial, supports skin, hair, and tissue regeneration, okay? There's another peptide called MOTS-C. This is actually a peptide produced by the mitochondrial, unlike other peptides, which are encoded by DNA, MOTS-c is encoded by mitochondrial DNA. It acts as a messenger that helps regulate metabolism, energy production, and cellular stress response. It improves energy metabolism, increases insulin sensitivity, supports healthy blood sugar regulation, enhances fat utilization. During exercise, improves physical endurance and recovery, promotes mitochondrial health, supports healthy aging and longevity pathways, helping cells to adapt to stress. Okay. Acetyl L-carnitine, which is an amino acid. This also helps support the mitochondrial. It burns fat for fuel, supports ATP production, may reduce fatigue, used in longevity and mitochondrial health protocols. It improves brain focus, mental clarity, your memory. It supports neurotransmission production, neurotransmitter production, including, let's see, it also helps with your nerve and cardiovascular health. Let's see what else. Oh, these are the other things that help with repairing mitochondria. I'm just going to go through them. I won't tell you what they do. You're going to have to do your own research a little bit on this, okay? So for mitochondria, you got the NDA+, CoQ10, PQQ, which is a peptide, alpha latropic acid, magnesium, and also methylene blue. But they say to only use that under your doctor's supervision. And let me just say this: I am not a physician. I am not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. Please seek medical advice from a professional before starting any protocols. Discuss it with your physician or a medical professional that you prefer. Okay, I'm only telling you what I have experienced, what I have worked with, and what I have researched. You do your own research, find out what works for you. What works for me may not work for you. Okay, you may find a different peptide that works better for you, you know, or whatnot, or maybe they don't work for you at all. You know, decide for yourself. All right, y'all. I do believe the goddess has said what she wanted to say today. And now I'm finished. Oh, no, she hasn't, because I was supposed to pull some cards, y'all. And I promised I would do it. So I think the goddess really want to bring a message for it, because she's not letting me go. Okay. So let's pull a couple cards. I already cleansed. Let's see what the Osaranga Aji have to say. What the divine feminine goddesses have to share with us. I'm going to pull 3 cards from these 2 decks, and whatever comes up. Uh-oh. Ooh, okay, let's cut the deck. Let's cut the deck. What's at the bottom? Allah, grief. Coming out of that grief. You got the moon right there, and she's pregnant. Okay, let's pull the 3 cards. Y'all won't even believe who came up. So first we have Aset, which is Isis. This is another word for Isis. Another name for Isis. Aset, surrender. Okay, it's time to let go. It's time to surrender to the divine. It's time to let go of the trauma. Let go of the pain. Let go of the burdens. It's time to surrender what no longer belongs to you. It's time to surrender what you're no longer meant to carry. What you have inherited from your ancestors that was placed upon them. Things and horrors and traumas that you may know nothing of. It is time for you to surrender all of that to the goddess. She wants to heal you. Now, guess who comes up next? Tituba. You see that, y'all? Now, who was Tituba? What was I talking to you guys about? The Salem witch trials. Who was the first witch to be accused? And you two would be around me. Tituba. Somebody sent me a book about her. That's how much her spirit be around me. That somebody sent me a book about her. Okay, Magic LaCroix, those of you who know magic, he sent me a book about Tituba. She was actually the first witch to be accused of witchcraft in the Salem witch trials. Yatuba was actually, talk about her in American Horror Story. Remember, I just brought that up. That's when the character that plays Marie Laveau talks about how the witches there learned their power, got their knowledge from Tituba, who was not a slave. She was actually of high royal descent and a high priestess, and of indigenous blood. Okay. And she talks about that, and she says how she had her power from a bloodline of shamans that went back many, many, many generations. Okay. So Tituba was the first one. She's a black slave. They say that she taught, you know, the women how to do witchcraft, and so they pointed her out. Okay. And basically they did take her into prison, but guess what? She was let go. They had her for a year, and Tituba was let go. She had real power. She had real power. Okay, because them witches, they was not letting you go. Once they got you and they put you in those cells, no, they were not letting them go. She was actually let go, set free, and moved on with her life. But yes, she was the first one that was accused of witchcraft. That started the Salem witch trial, and I just talked about that, and here she is. So this is a deep wound, y'all. We gotta let it go. Reclaim your power as a witch. Don't let people take that word and turn it against you. Ooh, it's evil. Because that was the first thing when I started. I've always been different. Like, people who really know me, who grew up around me, I've always been a little different. You know what I'm saying? I've always been different. I've always been more to be to myself. Like, I've never been one to run with the crowd. Like, I have my select circle of friends and I stay within it type of thing. But when I started to awaken, when I started to wake up, what is wake up? What happens when you wake up, y'all? That program and condition and that spell begins to break down. And they do everything they can to recondition it out of you, to stop your ascension, to stop your awakening. They have done much to women. They call it, think about the word Sybil, right? These Sibyls would go sometimes into frenzied states where they would channel spirit and they would go into these trances, you know, and they would, you know, prophesize, okay, and all these different things. What did they do? The stigma that they put on the word Sybil, that crazy bitch that had on the multiple personalities. Those Sibyls channel different spirits. I channel different spirits, okay? So sometimes I might be a little bit different as far as energy-wise. Like, I be different, you know. I'm me. I'm still me. I'm still Crystal. My foundation is still me. But there's times when I take on more of a Oya energy. And people who have worked with me over time, they'll tell you. There's sometimes when I'm more motherly, I'm more Yemaya. And you can call me and cry on my shoulders, oh, baby, oh, yeah, I love you, baby, you up. And then sometimes you call and you get Oya. And I'm like, that bitch just like, no nonsense. Like, I'm here for you. I'm supporting you. But I'm not here for your bullshit. Like, let's get together, sister. It's time to fight. It's time to pull it together. It's time to get to business, you know. The other times I'm more like Oshun. I'm that sweetness and that more sultry energy. So my energy does shift at times. I'm not becoming a totally different person. But the way my energy is expressed is a bit different. I even think my face sometimes, like when I'm more Oya, it's like my face, like that warrior energy is more on me and my face looks more serious. It's like my face, when I'm more my Oshun energy, my face feminizes more. Like I said, when you are going through your period and you release hormones, your face starts to feminize subtly. Your face subtly changes. Did you know that when you have certain hormones around your period and after your period? Because genetics is trying to help you get pregnant, so it makes your face more feminine. It gets a little slimmer in certain places, and certain places get a little more fleshy because it's attempting to make you more attractive so that you would then procreate, increases your chances of procreation. That's what really has happened on a biological level, but this does happen to us as women. So we are subtly shifting energies, but what they did was they gave us this movie of this crazy bitch Patty Duke being, you know, Sybil multiple personalities, and now as soon as you start channeling this spirit and going into this energy, oh, you crazy. That's crazy. This is, you know, you got to be mindful of that because all of that plays a role in shutting down your melanin, shutting down your ascension and your awakening. It's been a stigma and a spell that has been cast. And then they use sociology to back it up. Okay, and the way they socialize us and program and condition us, and they give us these movies where they show you people who practice magic as evil and summons and demons, like how I liked American Horror Story Coven, but there were certain aspects of it that you could tell the writers were not black. They were, even though they may not think that they're racist, it was in the background of the writing. Why does Papa Legba have to be a crackhead, a cokehead? Why does Marie Laveau have to take her only child and sacrifice it to Papa Legba to get all this power? I ain't never heard that story about Marie Laveau. And I don't know Papa Legba to really take no cocaine from nobody. Who's offering it to him? You know what I'm saying? I ain't never heard. I mean, people do things. I know Shango like to smoke weed. And you smoke weed with La Santa Muerte. But I mean, I guess there could be fringe groups of people doing weird shit. I don't know. But that was very racist. That was very so much putting stigma and negativity on something spiritual as we're going through this awakening, as Black women specifically are leaving the church and coming into their spiritual knowledge and power and magic and their indigenous knowledge and power. You know, you give them all of this stigma, all of this negativity so that people will judge them, and then you don't want to be judged, and you don't want people to call you a witch and think that you're evil, and now you're going to hell and all this old foolishness. People don't want to eat at your house because you got to put blood in their stuff. And let me just say this. I have never in my life put anything in my food for somebody. No blood, no nothing. But I'm the bitch that don't eat everywhere. And you heard that Odu. And Odu, it says, do not eat food from a stranger. I don't believe in potlucks anyway at work, but they had a potluck the other day where they like they ordered out like some sandwiches and other things from a restaurant, and they had everybody bring in like sides for a potluck. Well, of course I didn't eat anything that nobody brought. I ate the sandwich from the restaurant, and they had like a fruit tray from like the grocery store. Of course I got a little fruit. I'm not eating nothing as I'm strange person cook me because I don't know what you do with it. Okay, I do get that, but I don't do that. But this is the type of stuff that they'll put in people's mind, having men afraid of you and foolishness, thinking you try to do something to them, when really, more than likely, the witchy spiritual women in men's life be the blessings, be the irate, bring them so much blessings that they don't even get. Being in their energy, connecting with them sexually, having love sent to them, that puts a mantle of protection around a man, increases his abundance and his ashe. It is a blessing for a man to find a good wife or a good woman. Okay, she increases his energy, increases his power, adds to. Remember, we bring energy. Okay, like the mitochondria shows you. Who stores the power? Who stores the energy? Even on a as above, so below, as within, so without. What's going on with science is also showing you what is going on in this physical realm. Okay. So the tuba is here saying, yes, that's a deep wound. Think about what they call the mass unconscious, right? Where there's a wound there in the mass subconscious, unconscious of women. There is this witch wound. They call it the witch wound. Some of you may have even been killed as a witch, or tried as a witch, or betrayed in some way. Some of that is a real thing. It could be in your bloodline as well, or it could be that you were portrayed as a woman of power in a previous lifetime as well, or in your bloodline. But on a collective level, as women, we all embody and connect with this energy. So that wound is serious. It is a trauma, it is a wound, but it is also a curse. They were killing 13 women, making 13, think about not killing, sacrificing to lower astral entities and demonic forces, masculine forces that would then give these men the power that they needed, because they didn't have the physical power right away, but they got the spiritual power. That is how all wars started. Before people went to war, they would go to the Sibyls. They would go to the oracles of Delphi. They would go and get a reading, okay? And this is how different conquerors and kings were actually successful, because they went there and they told them, okay, this is what you need to win. This is what's going to happen. Don't go to war with these people right now because you're going to lose. They would go and get advice, and they would go and do spiritual work to get things to go their way. How do you think Hanuman got beat? They went to Sybil. They went to the Oracle of Delphi and asked, how do I beat this man? Because he was whooping ass. They said you have to go to the Magna Mother, the Magna Mater. That's what they call Sybil, the original temple where the Vatican sits. And so one of her sacred spots is like in these mountains. And there is a statue to her. And they had to go and they took that statue, took it and started doing rituals to it. Please believe me, okay? This is where the power comes from. The pharaohs that rule only rule because the power of the priest. That was the power behind the throne. Think about it. As a king, you have to have more than just the physical political power, okay? To get the political power, you get it first through spirit. Last but not least, we have Jumbi mask, and it's turned around. She's removing the mask from around the divine feminine, this evil mask that they have placed, this distorted image of what divine feminine energy is. Okay, all of the negativity, all of the stigma, pulling that off, releasing all of that, letting all of that go, being your authentic, pure, wild self, like the wild woman energy, okay? Complete liberation and being authentically yourself, unapologetically embodying who you are. Integrating your shadow and embodying all of that, because that's where your power is. Many of you want to know where your power at. When am I going to be powerful? When my spells are going to be popping off like this? And when my prayers are going to be popping off like that? You got to integrate that shadow. You have to heal what's in the shadow and reclaim your power. That is where your power is. You got to break spells. You got to release energy. You got to purge. And I don't mean, oh, I'm going to do one little cleansing ritual. I'm going to do a crossing ritual and I'm done. Nah, baby, this is deep. This is deep. You got to go deep. You got to go as deep as the problem is, okay? Deception and envy. That even came up in the Odu, saying people would try to attack you this year. There's deceptive force. What did I say about the patriarch and how they sat up under the matriarch with that evil and that envy? Be mindful. They have deceived us. They have been deceptive. But that is coming to an end. The deception is over. The lies that they have been telling on the divine feminine, how they have been claiming our power, our knowledge, it's over. What is going to happen? Material harvest. What did I tell y'all? You see me shuffle the cards. Material harvest. The meek shall inherit the earth. You see your harvest right here. Completing a cycle. Number 9. And then triumph. Number 7. Success. Okay, moving forward. You may need some support moving forward because you see how this person is riding on the horse. But definitely we're going to be successful. We're going to be triumphant. The goddess is going to be triumphant. You will be triumphant. You will overcome. You've had enemies. You've got people deceitful lying on you. Why do you think all that is? Some of y'all want to know why your family do you the way you do. Why your people in your community do the way you do. Why your friends do you the way you do. Because the enemy know who you is. They've been waiting for you to come through the birth canal. They knew you was coming. Your ancestors called you here. Why? Because you're the one who could break this curse. You're the one who could transmute this energy. You are the one who could embody the gift, not just the material gift, but the spiritual gift. You can't inherit all of the spiritual power and gift in your bloodline because it is underneath, buried under trauma, buried, being neutralized by curses. You have the power to break it. It's not going to be easy. And that's why you have been having so much opposition. Because those people in your family, those people in your community, they are influenced by that curse, by that trauma. They are a part of the program that you are here to break. You are here to wake them up. And what happens when you wake people up that's been sleeping a long time? They get mad. They don't want to wake up. You don't wake them up by telling them, wake up, I'm here to, and judging them. You wake them up by holding your energy, by embodying your energy. When you have true spiritual power, and I'm not saying this to brag, y'all, very seriously. I'm a very humble person, and I'm saying this very truthfully. But I move and I go places where people are really doing shit, okay, spiritually. Like I've met and connect with a lot of people. And one of the things that people always tell me when I'm around, they get real hot. They talk about this real hot fire, this real hot energy. Like I remember I went and gave, one of the first times when I went over, I used to go see Yvette, who has the Motown Witch. You know, I used to do readings there and I taught classes. Thank you to Yvette. Shout out. Hope you're doing well. I remember one day I was sitting there talking to her and she was like, "Ooh, it's so hot." She was like, "This energy." She was like, "I feel it. It's like this spiritual energy." And then I went and I gave some Reiki to, there's another woman, Calavetta. She has the Calavetta Rose shop that was in Allen Park. I think now it's in Southwest Detroit. How you doing? I went and I gave her some Reiki one day and I was standing next to her and she was like, "I feel this heat coming off of you." She's like, "This energy is so hot." Like that is really the chi. That is really my Shakti. That's a fire. Shakti, that Kundalini energy, that's what the Shakti is, the divine feminine energy that lives within us, the Alat energy. It is a fire. And they can feel that because that is the energy that I'm emitting energetically. You know, I am a fire sign. That's why I work with a lot of fire. Like my power doesn't come from these candles. That's why you can burn a candle and get a whole different result than I get. Because I'm fueling that candle with power. That candle is just an innate object. People burn candles all day and don't nothing happen. Because they just burning it. Okay? When you have real spiritual power, because you have, baby, let me just be honest with y'all. If y'all want to get this power, it wasn't easy. It was a lot of pain. It was a lot of struggle. It was a lot of suffering. Oh, baby. To get into the belly of the beast and to bring up the trauma and what's in the darkness to get to what? The divine feminine pearl of knowledge and wisdom. To activate codes, to break generational curses, to transmute enough trauma to be able to then align with what is already in your bloodline. Many of you, like my grandmother, when I went through my first awakening, I never forget, and I didn't understand it then completely, but now, this was what, 2004, when my great-grandmother passed away. She was a cancer. Her name was Dear. And what I do know about her, as I didn't grow up in Alabama, which is where she lived and died, but I did visit a lot as a child and with my parents and things. And, you know, just doing family research, doing genealogy. Y'all do y'all genealogy. Talk to y'all old people before they die, okay? Get the stories. They called her a witch. They thought that my great-grandmother was a witch. And I used to wonder why we used to have, like, you know, things that we did. You know, you don't wash on a new year, and, you know, cooking your black-eyed peas and stuff on the new year. And we had a lot of, like, what they would call old wise tales in our family. And there was a lot of you know, belief in spirits and seeing spirits and talking about seeing our ancestors. My grandmother talked about seeing her grandfather and different people and just seeing spirits, you know, people having spiritual power and all this spiritual talk. It wasn't all religious, even though my grandmother went to church, my great grandmother went to church. She stayed at a church, okay? But she was known as a witch. And for what I understood, you didn't want to have a problem with Dear, okay? But when she died and I went to her funeral, I can't even explain it. It was like all of a sudden something turned on in me. It was like, I always used to like to sit outside in nature, but it felt like everything was alive. It felt like the sky was alive and the trees was alive. And it just felt like everything was like communicating. And I just became so aware of how alive everything was around me. It was like something in me woke up, turned on. And that year, 2004, well, yeah, 2003, she died. 2003, I moved to Alabama. 2004, I came back here. And all of that was a part of my awakening. What I began to realize now, and not just now, but over the years and getting confirmation, was that she left her power to me. Your ancestors in the matrilineal part of your bloodline, they have power. And when they pass it on to somebody in the bloodline. It doesn't always inherit chronologically, okay? It does not always inherit chronologically. And basically, what she was doing was preparing me to become the family's matriarch. Please understand that if you are watching me right now, you are your family's matriarch, or you are being positioned to do that. You are aligning. That is your purpose. That is your power. But it does not come lightly. It is going to come with opposition. People are going to challenge you. Baby, you would have not wanted to go through some of the psychic attacks, the physical, the spiritual, the economic attacks. They will attack you in every way possible, because remember, these spells they did is ancient and they re-energize them. It's in the earth. They have buried things in the earth, in the water. Spells, energy. They have, like they tell you that some of the watchmen are locked up under, you know, certain angels and things are locked up under bodies of waters and different things. Like, seriously, there is a lot. This is why you're seeing, as these spells are being broken, as this energy that has been, because what they've also done is the energy in the earth is naturally feminine. Naturally feminine. The entities, there's entities and energies in the land that the Native Americans were caretakers, and they fed the spirits and they kept things in balance. The tiki ceremonies, this is why, you know, the Dogons did their ceremonies. All of this was about keeping balance, as above, so below, harmonizing forces and keeping balance over these cosmic spiritual forces that rule the earth and that rule what manifests and happens on the earth. They understood this, but what they have done to subvert that energy, to usurp that energy, that feminine energy, and redirect it and make it masculine, that's deep. That's deep. So what we are uprooting, what we are healing, what we are breaking, what we are transmuting is deep. So don't give up, okay? You got victory, but victory only comes to the diligent and those who endure. Okay, that's like this old song, and I'm about to go, this old gospel song, and say, weeping may endure for a night, but joy will come in the morning. I'll never forget that. I was one of the people I was always in the choir, y'all. I can actually sing, but I'm not going to break into song for y'all, but I can actually sing. Weeping may endure for a night. That's one thing about a siren. If anybody know anything about me, I carry a lot of siren energy. Beyonce is a siren. Sirens are known for having beautiful voices. They sing their spells, their voices put you under a spell. They have very beautiful voices. Okay? All right, y'all. I love y'all. I hope y'all were able to get something of value out of this. The meek shall inherit the earth. Be humble. Peace, y'all.